Well, they might be wonderful when they're sitting up doing something useful, but this thing barely opened its eyes as we drove in. It's one of the Avoca males. I'm told the other two are here. I can see one, but I cannot see the third. Anyway, we have lions. It's good. It's getting cooler. Sun's starting to set. Possibly good for us to settle in for the long haul. If not too many people want to come in here. And just as you look at that flat cat there, at least you can see the vegetation, which tends not to run away or go to sleep, but it is starting to turn. Can you see that? We're getting the autumnal colours here, and we don't get great sprays of burgundies and pinks and things that you do in in the northern reaches of the world. It just kind of goes yellow and then leaves fall off. Puma, you say, OMG, James found them. Well, I don't know whether to be insulted or pleased by that comment. Puma, I didn't actually find them. Somebody told me where they were. And I had quite a lot of help from David, who was here this morning. Thank you, David. Well, they're having a very nice long Sunday siesta. And in fact, one would question whether they were in fact still extant if one didn't know that they were alive, wouldn't you? I'm not sure that we'll spend too long here. I think we'll probably go back towards the waterhole, see if Hosanna doesn't pop his head out. Apparently he was around here earlier today. But Hosanna on the hunt will be inescapably more entertaining than this lot. I thought yesterday when I was on my walk that the roaring sound of lions in the distance was these guys calling, Joyce. And that would have signified, of course, that they were solidifying their domain. But I was then told subsequently that it wasn't them, because I think Steve was quite close to them, if not actually with them, when I heard that roar. So I don't know for sure. I think somebody's told me that he's heard them roaring. In fact, we have definitely heard them roaring. Yeah, we know they have roared. And I think there's probably been very little response. And so here they remain. Very comfortable. I think the next step, I think that they are going to be here to stay. I can't see any reason for them not to stay around if the Birminghams don't come back up north. And I can't see any reason why the Birminghams would come back up north. And so let us assume that these fat fellows take over here. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the young members of the Nkuhumas, as I said yesterday during our character catch-up show. It's, I think the youngest cub is... How old is the youngest cub? The youngest cub must be just under a year, I would have thought. And then the rest of them are almost 2. Now, I think they'll be okay. But the youngest cub could still be in trouble. That is the sound of an aeroplane coming over, everybody. Sorry about that. I suppose the obvious question for those of you who haven't been watching for a long time is, where are the Birmingham boys? Well, at the moment we think they are down south on the Sand River, probably close to the salubrious environs of Olondolozi or Singita or Mala Mala. Very famous names, those. Oh, is there mud here, is there? Senzo was just telling me that there's mud on my jacket. Now it's on his jacket. And, sorry about that. In fact, there's more than that on his jacket. I took us through some fairly muddy patches earlier. Sorry about that. So I think that's where they are. And that hole, in case you missed the discussion That hole's been created by the demise of the long-standing Majingelane coalition, and so I think that's left a void for the Birmingham boys of probably 2 or 3 prides in a very prey-rich environment, and I think that's just where they're hanging out. I think it's probably a slightly more, well, hesitate to say a better choice of territory, but I think there's more opportunity for them down there than there is up here. And so I think these guys are just going to drift in here without too much of a fight. Well, as we sit here, all of us wondering when they're going to get up and do something, of course lions can sleep for up to 20 hours of the day, Marcy, and so to say that they would get up at any specific time to go hunting would be incorrect. And I mean, we have sat with flat cats deep into the evening thinking, well, they're definitely going to get up now. They're so hungry. They must start hunting now. Ooh, it's getting dark. They're definitely going to get up now. Ooh, they're turning around and stretching a little bit. They're definitely going to get up now. I need to watch them fall fast asleep again. So it really is difficult to say. These guys look fairly fat to me, and I don't think they're in need of a huge meal. They could conceivably sleep here for the rest of the night. But I suspect they will get up as the sun goes down and as it gets dark. And let me just check my time. I mean, that's only going to be, the sun will go down in about 20 minutes or so. Now, Djuma is about 1,200 hectares, Chitwa about 800 hectares, so that gives us a total traversing area of 200 hectares, or about 5,000 acres. And, sorry, I missed the name there, was it Jamelia? Drunelia? Bromelia? Vanilla. Vanilla, like vanilla, but with a mix-up of the back letters. Very nice, Vanilla. Vanilla? So, you know, Djuma and Chitwa together are not large enough to house one pride in this area. You'd probably find a pride like the Nkuhumas has got a territory of about 8,000 to 10,000 acres, about, what is that, say, 3,500 hectares or so. And so Djuma doesn't have a number of prides, but the boundary between the Styx Pride and the Nkuhuma Pride runs pretty much along the line where those elephants were walking today, just south of an area called Twin Dams. And if I hadn't handed over my map to Steve, I could show you where I meant by that. But it's you know, you can check it out on Google Earth if you want to. You can see all of those landmarks. And then the Nkuhuma Pride territory goes way into the west and north of us. And the Styx Pride, obviously, we're in the Styx Pride territory now. Remember, and this is very NB for anybody who's interested in lions, males are not part of the pride, and that's really important for people to realize. They are extra to the pride. They form a coalition like this one here, and in their domain will fall anything between 1 and 4 prides, maybe, and up to 5. Perhaps in some cases. Certainly the Majingalan had at least 5 in their territory. These chaps here, at the moment, if they do take this territory, will have the Styx and the Nkuhumas and perhaps the Torchwood Pride as well. That will be their domain. But a lot of their activity will take place off Djuma. Now Ralph has managed to achieve the impossible. He seems to have found a puddle. Well, there's some movement there, everybody. The aeroplane is taking off and it has disturbed this male lion, who opened his eyes and then moved his head downwards and then flicked his ear. Oh! Sensor's heart rate is through the roof. He can barely control his excitement. David tried to climb off the car in terror at the lion moving his ear like that. I had to save them. And Luke, who's a new director, of course, says that it would be a great idea to do an unscheduled broadcast to Facebook with these lions because the sighting is so action-packed. I couldn't agree more, Luke. Let's go live to every page we can. This is not a sighting you're going to see very often. You will seldom see such impressive sleeping skills on anything other than either a Wild Earth presenter or a deeply drunk teenager. Lovely, you want to know about the names of these cats, and in fact, I think last week during our show there were some names suggested. What were they? They were, I forget exactly what they were. They were quite funny though. We named them after avos, that's right. It was, there we go, Guacamole, Chip and Dip. That is not an official name of these animals. They are not called Guacamole, Chip and Dip. They have yet to be named, and I think we should probably get on to that process fairly soon. We should possibly name them after different synonyms for sleep. Slumber, passed out, dead. That's what we should call them. Minamu. I always laugh when I hear that name because I'm not sure if you realise Minamu. Maybe you've named yourself after this Afrikaans cartoon that I used to watch as a child. It was called Minamu, and the theme tune is stuck in my head and will be forever, lamentably so. They will get their full manes probably in about 3 years or so. They will start to look full-maned in about 1.5 years or so, I guess. That'll probably be when you'd expect them to have the good sort of Birmingham-sized males, but they'll keep growing for the rest of their days. So that's what'll happen there. So I'm not sure where the third one is. And there's also that chap's just flicking his tail. I'm just going to move everyone because there are 2 other vehicles here and I just want to get out the way, otherwise no one else is going to be able to see them. As I do that, the question of cubs has been raised by Sharon and whether this lot would be able to sire cubs. Yes, technically they have the equipment and the maturity to sire cubs at this stage. But whether or not they would be able to convince a pride of females to allow that, I'm not really sure. I still can't see number 3. Anyway, that's what's going on here. All I'm saying there is that until they take over territory, until the pride females decide that they are going to accept them as male, well, they don't have to accept them, but until they are able to kind of impose themselves on the pride, they won't breed then, no. Okay. What kind of car is that? Ah, it's a converted Ford. It's quite nice. Everybody, I think let's leave at the moment, simply because there's quite a lot of pressure being brought to bear on them, so let's just head out. We'll try and come back perhaps when it gets a bit darker, and we'll see if they don't get up. While we head out of here, they do have these wispy sort of teenagerish type manes. They're not that wispy, they're getting there. And tell you, I think they're probably pretty similar to the mane sizes of the Birminghams at the same age. I'm just trying to remember, we did meet the Birminghams at roughly the same age. The Birminghams, I think, were a little bit older than these guys when we first met them, but roughly the same age, yeah. And roughly the same kind of mane. Sorry, there was just a bit too much pressure going on there because they were in that big thicket, and I think we were hemming them in, so I just thought, let's just head out of here. Alrighty, we're going to go down towards Chitwa Dam and see if we can't pick up some alarm calls from Hosana, perhaps. Well, you were all asking if these lions are calling at the moment, and they have started to call. This one here is just making sort of perfunctory roars. Here we go. There's your answer, everybody. The Avoca boys are here to stay. There is no clearer announcement of a male lion claiming a territory than that. That's two of them. We don't know where the third one is. Was that not spectacular? Now, we're not going to be able to stay here long. There are quite a few people trying to get into the sighting, obviously, because now these lions are calling, which means that, you know, if you ever visit Africa, of course, it's the one thing a guide really wants to show you. So we'll sit here another few minutes and just see if we don't get lucky with another call. Just going to ask on the radio how many standbys there are. How many stations on standby for this Avoca male sighting? Just trying to find out how many on standby. Can't hear that. Sorry, just go again with that, I can't hear. Okay, copy, thanks. Just give me another 3 minutes here and I'll pull out. Oh, now, what these other guys are doing is going around to see if they can't find the other one, so I don't think we're in any tearing rush to leave. We'll hang around for a few minutes. Also, we did get here last. So we don't need to leave just yet because they're looking for the third one. Now, I didn't hear, but apparently he was also calling. Now that's a pretty loud sound, and if you're sitting next to it, it can really rattle your rib cage. That's the big sort of analogy that everyone gives. Jason, it can probably be heard by a lion up to, I'd say, 10 to 15 kilometers as the crow flies. Maybe not quite that far, let's call it 10 kilometers as the crow flies. Human being, I think you'll hear them on a cool morning. I think you'll easily hear them from about 5 kilometers or so. Maybe even further than that, in fact. Let's say 5 to 10 kilometers for a human being, 10 to 15 for a lion. Obviously their ears are a lot more sensitive than ours are. Alright, this is good news. It looks like we can stay. These guys are leaving. And as they leave, there are another two groups looking for the other lion. So we can just stay here. Hello? Let me move forward for you, everybody. Sorry. Thanks, guys. Sorry, I missed that. Lucas, can we have it again? Is that alright, Sims? Now, that calling, as I was saying, Johnson, is an advertisement to say this is our territory, we're taking over here. And it's in a, just to basically say to all the other lions in the area, this is ours. and you'll find lions throughout the night in the various territories of the Kruger National Park will be doing exactly what these three have done. But younger than this, you will find that they will not be calling. They won't call because they want to stay under the radar. These guys have now broken cover and said, okay, if anybody thinks this land is theirs, then they must come and challenge us for it, because we are laying down the challenge. We may just have witnessed the passing of the age of the Birmingham boys over here. Not so much with an enormous fight and a scratch and a bite, but with a little bit of a, well, I wouldn't say whimper, but the Birminghams have just moved on. These guys have come into an unoccupied territory and find themselves with great luck. We'll give them a chance to call once more, and then we can move out. And what is so fascinating is that there's been a lot of research done on lion voices and whether or not individual lions can be recognized by other lions. And Pixel, no question about it, the Nkuhumas and the Styx prides will not recognize these as Birmingham males. They will know that they are not Birmingham males, that they are not the same. We'll just see if they call again. And I know you can probably hear a lot of radio noise. That's not on our vehicle, that's on the other two vehicles. Just fantastic stuff to hear that sound. It's been a very long time since I've heard that, especially at that proximity. And so exciting to be around here for this takeover. Or shall we say replacement? I think takeover would be a strong term. Right, I believe that Steve has got good news. So he's about, I'd say about, how far do we think away would we say the others are? Probably about 400 meters, quarter of a mile. Now, I'd be very interested to know if any of you think this one is slightly larger or slightly smaller than the other two. Because what I think is quite interesting is that there's definitely a split in this coalition already. There are the two of them, and then this guy on his own. And when we saw them on foot, it was two together, the other guy was away. And I wonder if he isn't slightly older. It looks to me like his mane extends slightly further down his back. And I wonder if he perhaps comes from a different, well, it would mean he probably comes from a different mother. Maybe the other two are litter mates, and this guy's a cousin. He's looking a bit forlorn at the moment, but he gave a wonderful call. Let's see if he goes again. And I just said the same thing as Murphy's asked. I said I wondered if he was the leader, and then I realised, of course, it's not really what happens in these coalitions. There's no real leader at all. They just kind of go about their business, and there's no obvious dominant. Well, in theory, that's what the textbooks will tell you, or certainly some textbooks. But when I think back to the Matimba males, who were the group before the Birminghams, one was definitely bigger than the other, and he seemed to monopolize the mating opportunities. So to say that he wasn't the dominant or, more dominant male, I think would be wrong. But whether he was the leader or not and he made the decisions, I don't know. That's a big yawn. Just listening for the others, perhaps wondering if the Avoca males are calling or not. Not the Avoca males, the Birminghams. And Chris, I don't it really depends where the Birminghams are, whether they could hear him or not. I'm not going to try and follow him through this thicket, everybody. I believe that Stivovor's managed to get himself stuck in a hole. So you're going to stay with us for now? Okay. Well, I think that was a great lion sighting. We started off very weakly with that rather pathetic sleeping sighting we had, and ended very strongly. I'm sorry we didn't get him calling. And one of the things that made the Majingalan coalition so very strong was the fact that they seemed to come together every time there was trouble. Now that's unusual. And Sammy Jane, you say, will they split? They could easily split, yes. But a coalition of three is a small coalition. So in a coalition of four, to find 2 and 2 together, which again the Matimbas did, they were 4 and then they were 2 and 2. It's not unusual to find them splitting, but I think in a coalition of 3, I really don't think that's going to happen. I think it's much more likely that they will stay together. All right, we won't have a dodgy signal. We should be fine over here. Remember, we are having a time change. It's not tomorrow, it's the day after, I think, isn't it? Because today is the 29th, unless I've gone mad. Correct, Luke? Okay, good. So the time change will occur on Tuesday morning. We will move 1/2 hour later to escape the darkness in the morning, and 1/2 hour earlier in the afternoon. So we'll be going live at 6:30 Central African time in the morning, and then again at 3 o'clock Central African time in the afternoon. So that is how the changes will occur. A couple of birds knocking about here, some water thickneys, and we're going to shine on them. We'll give you a last look at Chitwa Lodge and the moon. Gorgeous stuff. All right, everybody. That's going to be it from us today. A marvellous, marvellous afternoon we've had of cats, a marvellous weekend, and most encouragingly, my Monday morning will be spent doing exactly what all my other mornings are doing. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been an